Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! And Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Friday. Thanks a lot for being with us. Of course, don't forget, Indiana Sports Beat Radio powered by Andy Moore Honda. Go to andymoorehonda.com to get more to your door in the best in new and used vehicles. Tell them ISB Media sent you, and you'll get a little boost, a little discount. Looking forward to today, as always. Robert Kravitz on the show. Zachary Osterman. Who else? What else former name can I use?
See, Travis, I mean, you could call him Travie Miller, but there really isn't a formal name for Travis, I feel like.
Yes, one came to mind quickly, but I better not say that one. Travis Miller from Boiler Up Boat. Boiler Up Boat will be joining us as well. Looking forward to discussing all the discord of Hoosier Nation. They're all in a Twitter. Indiana 3-0, but Hoosier fans are a little concerned with how they are reaching that status. But it is telling. I was sitting here going back over the transcript from last night's postgame press conference, and Mike Whitson was asked the very first question about the number of threes that Indiana's given up in the first three opponents. What are some adjustments or changes or improvements that he'd like to see? And he said, I should have had him say it, but just us switching correctly and getting to a guy before he shoots the basketball, that would help. I don't really want to talk about it. I'd like to talk about my grandbaby. I should send out a shout out to Mariah Adams and her husband for having our first grandbaby tonight. Way to go, Mariah, if you're listening. Well, that's funny. I didn't realize that's what that was about, but I asked him about a while back what it was like to be a grandfather. So I guess no one knew that. I didn't know it, that they had that, but how would you? But you don't have a choice. What do you have to talk about it? Khalil Ware is looking very good for Indiana. Consistent, growing in his role. So there's some good things there. Mbako is a process in work. Adjusting still. Not a good night shooting-wise for him, but he still managed to pull up 13 points in that game. So I think that's a good sign. It'll fall together for him. And once it does, it's once it clicks, it clicks. It's hard to explain, but it's like you're traveling this road and you're I'll use a NASCAR. What's the word I'm looking for? I can't remember. But anyway, term. In NASCAR on certain tracks, there's certain grooves that you just need to be in to get that fastest lap. Sometimes it's at the top of the track. Sometimes it's at the bottom. Sometimes it's in the middle. Sometimes it's switching. But anyway, McKenzie has not found that groove yet. He's not found that groove of smoothness and to get him around as quickly as possible. But I think that he'll get there. That could happen under the bright lights of Madison Square Garden. Who knows? But we'll certainly find out. Indiana scoring a ton of points last night. Of course, they gave up a lot of points. But I also think, and I saw this, someone said this, and I agree, they've been playing a lot of teams that don't have the size that Indiana has, and so it's kind of a different situation as far as matchups. But that's something that I would consider if I was scouting Indiana on how to match up with them. Saw Missouri and Minnesota. They were the late game. Tamar Bates on that Missouri team. And Minnesota, I need to check the final on that, but they were handing it to
Missouri ended up pulling it out by 2 points.
Get out of here.
70-68.
Wow, that's a hell of a comeback because they were getting handled, as a matter of fact. Oh man, where on with that?
Tamar Bates came off the bench, had 8 points.
That's another thing. I'm surprised he's coming off the bench.
Now he plays a lot of minutes off the bench. He played 15 minutes, played more minutes than one of their starters even. But he's not in the starting five for Missouri.
Now, daggone it. What? That game is not popping up for me. Come on, man. Well, anyway, I was getting to watch that while we were doing the post-game show over at Hoosier Hanks East. Make sure you stop by Hoosier Hanks East, as a matter of fact, and say hi to the manager, Benny, mention Indiana Sports Beat, and take a photo with one of your favorite Hoosier Hank photos. They've got all these photos with Hank inserted in them. Funny photos from movies and all kinds of things. Pretty funny, to be honest with you. But Bob Kravitz on the program today. Zach Osterman and Travis Miller, like I said, looking forward to that. Jim Harbaugh and Michigan have accepted their punishment from the NCAA, or from the Big Ten, rather. This is from the Big Ten. Don't forget. The NCAA has not weighed in. Now, if there's further punishment coming, they'll take in consideration this. But this is really, again, I'm getting old and feeble-minded, but the word I'm looking for, this is like a courtesy suspension. He could do everything, but be on the sideline for the game. Usually when you're suspended, you can't be around the team, yada, yada, yada. But I guess it comes down to decisions. But with their record, who's to say that they're, like I said, they're not on the phone with each other? But wisely, I think, Michigan decided to accept the punishment that of the 3-game suspension. They were supposed to be in court today, and Harbaugh was making, well, I'm going to be in court, my God. I'm going to be there. I'm going to fight. We're going to go down. Nah, that's okay. We'll take our 3-game suspension. Funny how that changed. I don't know if finally some sense started sinking into them that you guys cheated. You got caught. And the NCAA, I keep hearing, has an abundance of evidence in that case. So he will not be on the sideline for this weekend's game against, I think it is Maryland, maybe. And more importantly, against Ohio State next weekend. How's everybody doing this morning? Fred on from Easton, Pete. Fred, or Las Vegas, Larry, John in Southern Brown County. Jamie from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Philip. Bill up in the UP man, it's got to be a little chilly up there because it's what I call it's a Bloody Mary morning, and she left me without warning. It just means it's a rainy morning or a rainy day. It's a rainy day. Oh man, I feel Howie. I'm missing the John. You're going to have to explain to me this one. Howie says Jim Yoda Coyle.
Yoda Coyle. Maybe I think he's referencing how you're getting your words mixed up. So when Yoda talks, he speaks in.
Oh, is he the one that does the how good you are well or something stupid like that?
Yeah, he's that guy.
Yeah. I'm not getting my words mixed up. I just can't think of them. Think of the ones that I want to use. But how's everybody doing? Fozan. He said Mackenzie Mbako would have at least 10 points. He had 13. He's waiting for his breakout game on Sunday at Madison Square Garden against UConn under those bright lights, like I said. Sometimes that does it, man. You get under those lights, you know you're on a big stage. And you either thrive or you sink. Process in work. Minnesota had a 20-point lead. What, are you kidding me? Wow. Here, and I was thinking, wow, Minnesota. Watching that, trying to watch the end of that game after the post-game show. I'm like, wow, Minnesota got a little something going. Justin thinks UConn's going to put up threes in volume. Well, I would too, from what I've seen. Yep, first road game for Indiana's at Madison Square Garden against the national reigning champions and what will be a home game for them, basically. And Drew, how are you, sir? Appreciate you. Dr. Drew? Not the same Dr. Drew. Gilel Ware is looking very, very good. He is looking very good. He's looking consistent. He's someone that's going to grow into his role for certain. But he has not let you down. He's had double-digit scoring every game, I believe, so far. How'd that go? Mr. McCurry he's from Fort Wayne, but he's on vacation in Jamaica. Yes. So we're on in Jamaica, eh? Is that right? Appreciate you.
I thought wouldn't it be Jamaican Mon? A is Canada. That's a Canadian
that's right.
thing.
See? Hey, in Jamaica, man. Yes, there you go. Appreciate that. Thank you, Andrew. We appreciate you taking us with you. Eric jumping on as well. Derek says, considering how we probably will play on Louisville, should we be concerned that game is close under 3 minutes to go? How bad Louisville is? Oh, we'll talk about all that. Up next, the wise one, Bob Kravitz. Right after this break.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. All right, I'm going to step out for a second. If you see Bob in the green room, feel free to pull him in, but I'll be right back.
Pull him in. Pull him in. Well, it's a Bloody Mary morning, and she left me without warning sometime in the night. And I'm flying down to Houston with forgetting her the nature of my flight. Holy Lord.
All right, I'm back.
Well, it's a Bloody Mary morning, and she left me without warning sometime in the night. Oh, shit, there he is.
Mr. Robert Kravitz.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Ladies and gentlemen, the incomparable Bob Kravitz.
you guys are aware it's bobkravitz.com now, right?
Oh,
Yes.
it's no. Oh, yeah, no longer the Substack. Yes, correct.
Right, just bobkravitz.com. It's a really effective workaround on Twitter.
Yes, it is.
So I'm glad I did it. I took the week off. It was a Colts bye week, so I took the week off.
There you go. Glad you got to enjoy some time off.
A lot of golf.
Guys.
44040, the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this November Friday. It's a rainy one, but into each life a little rain must fall, but we bring the sunshine of Bob Kravitz of bobkravitz.com.
I have a sunny disposition, generally speaking. I
And
think I'm
that's
known for that, actually.
I you know what? I've never been able to put that in words, but I have always felt that radiance when I'm around you.
Positive vibes, man.
The radiance, that is no doubt. Make sure you go to bobkravitz.com for the sage wisdom of said Bob Kravitz, who has been covering everything right now. Colts, a big part of that, Pacers. But he is a Renaissance man, so he knows all, covers all.
Yeah.
Colts, what are your thoughts on the Colts at the moment?
I'm shocked. I mean, 5-5. I thought they would win 3-4 games, to be honest with you. I give Shane Steichen and that group a lot of credit because, I mean, they started out the season. You lose Isaiah Rodgers, you lose Grover Stewart, you don't have Jonathan Taylor the first month of the season. You lose your quarterback after 173 snaps. You're down to Gardner Minshew, who is a passable quarterback, but certainly not a quality starter in the NFL. And to be 5-5, granted, it's a bad schedule, and it will continue to be a soft schedule, which gives them an outside chance at being a team that's going to compete for a playoff spot. But yeah, they've been much better than I thought they would be. Maybe not better, but they're winning more than I thought that they would at this point.
And how about the Pacers? You want to talk about a little surprise? We shouldn't be surprised.
No.
Because we were surprised last year, and they got better in the offseason. So
They did.
But I think there's still room for surprise because they're leading the freaking league in scoring, man.
They are. Unfortunately, I think they're dead last in defense.
Yes.
And they're really close to last in rebounding. So we know what kind of team this is. Look, if they can play just passable defense, if they could be just passable in the rebounding area, they're going to win 50 games. Now, I'm picking them to win about 43 to 45. I think we're looking at about an 8 to 10 game improvement over last year. But no, I've been very impressed. That win at Philadelphia was a quality win, especially the way they defended late. That was the Milwaukee game, excuse me. But they're a fun team, and this is an opportunity while the Colts are just kind of having one of those weird seasons where you're just waiting for Anthony Richardson to get healthy. This is a real chance for the Indiana Pacers to stake their claim here in Indianapolis, because let's face it, this has been a Colts town for many, many years. It is, when I got here in 2000, it was a Pacers town.
Reggie and Larry show.
The Reggie and Larry show. They had just come off an NBA Finals appearance. This was a Pacers town. The Colts were just getting going with Peyton, who came in '98. And all that has changed. And this is a real opportunity for the Pacers to, stake their claim here in Indianapolis and become a more relevant entity than they have been the last couple of years.
Well, the one thing, winning makes that happen.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just
winning
all
in
about
an
winning.
Exciting way. They're playing. I mean, it's okay. It's one thing to be exciting but lose your ass constantly. Excuse my language. But the fact that they are winning. Now they've had a pretty nice schedule early on. They played 5 of their first 7 at home, but I think this is a team that can win anytime, anywhere. Tyrese Halliburton has taken a leap into superstardom. And I just like their team. I like Brown. I think Miles Turner is playing really, really well, even against Embiid, who's his daddy. How
about them? They beat Philadelphia and Milwaukee in 2 out of 3 games. That's a pretty damn good day's work.
Yeah, no, they've been really solid. I thought Obi Toppin the last couple of games has been terrific. Their bench has been great. I think we're finding out just how valuable TJ McConnell is. I keep saying O'Connell. TJ McConnell is. So they're a deep, fun, exciting team, and I think people are going to continue to fall in love with what they're putting together down at Gamebridge.
Indiana basketball on the floor last night.
Right.
There's a little bit of wailing and gnashing of teeth amongst the IU faithful still because of the apparent lack of perimeter defense.
Right.
And they've given up more threes than I can even imagine right now. The leading scorer for Wright State was out last night.
Right.
So some kid comes off the bench that has not even attempted a 3, and he hit about 27 of them, I think.
Give or take. Yeah, I mean, you've got to worry about the 3-point defense, the free throw shooting. There's all kinds of things to be concerned about. Now, I thought that Mbako showed up and played pretty well, 13 points. Khalil Ware, I think, is going to be a real stud for this team. He has impressed me. We all kept hearing that this guy's got no motor. Well, I'll tell you what, Mike Woodson's doing a hell of a job with this kid, and this kid is doing a good job for himself. He's playing hard. He's playing well, and I think he can be a real star for this team. Once Mbako finds his footing, I think this could be a really interesting team, but they have got to be better in their perimeter defense. Their 3-point defense is atrocious.
Yeah, part of that I wonder is the 3 teams they've played none of them were big. They were all smaller. So now that would be a great tactic to employ.
Yes.
But I don't know that the teams that they're playing will be the same makeup. So that might mitigate some of that. But yeah, it's been a little alarming to see all 3 teams do that. But yet, even though that they're able to do that, Indiana was never in danger last night. They just could never put Wright State away because of those damn 3-point shots. But other than that, IU was shooting like 70% in the first half.
Yeah.
And they ended up 54% on the game. But Indiana's 3-point shooting is atrocious.
Yeah.
3 for 16
3
for 19%. Free throw shooting would be driving me bat blank crazy because you're getting a ton of opportunities. They went to the free throw line 32 times and missed 12 of those.
It's hard to believe.
Acceptable, man. That's just not acceptable. And if you hit the amount you should be hitting and hit 2 more threes, then you're looking at this going, okay, that's about right. They're just off, and hopefully they can get that little tweak fixed because that's a hell of a difference.
Well, everybody will ask Woodson, what are you doing about the free throw shooting? Well, they practice like crazy.
Yeah, I get so tired of hearing somebody saying, they should practice shoot free throws.
Right. Well, look, do I think they're going to get significantly better as the season wears on? No. I mean, I think they'll get better on their perimeter defense because they have to, because Woody will kill them if they don't. But free throw shooting, either you're a good free throw shooting team or you're not. And I just don't see how that's going to improve dramatically in the next couple of weeks or next couple of months. And when you get into tight games and you've got, University of Connecticut coming up, you got to make those suckers. And so that is a potential real problem for Indiana. They're okay for now, but once you start facing teams that are going to be 1 possession, 2 possession games, that's going to be an issue.
Well, and there are some positives that don't get talked about now. And one other negative before I get on the positive train, they were out rebounded in the first half.
They were
this team, and that's not acceptable. But I think that Woody made a comment in the post game that he'd like to see some rebounds from his guards because between all of them, there was a total of 1 rebound. He said, hell, I'm 69 or whatever he is. I can get a rebound. And I agree with him. They've got to be more active in that regard. But Indiana did force a lot of turnovers, 12, but they were efficient with those turnovers, 17 points off of those 12. That's a number you'd love to see.
Absolutely. No, it's funny. They weren't bad defensive. I mean, they were terrible on their perimeter defense, but they got in the passing lanes. They made things happen. They got those 12 turnovers. Keep in mind, as you mentioned, this is a Wright State team that was playing without its best player. How much of a difference he may have made, I have no idea. The kid who came in and replaced him went nuts from 3, so who knows? But I mean, you've just got to be better on perimeter defense. There's just no way around it because the way the game is played now, that's the difference between winning and losing.
They will be back at it on Sunday as they take on the reigning national champion UConn in Madison Square Garden. Of course, Indiana Sports Beat will be there, but that is going to be a game. That's a game where someone like Mackenzie Mbako could just look up, look around, soak that in, feel that energy, and finally have a breakout game or not. But it's just such a special place. If you have not been there, I mean, I get chills just sometimes thinking about it.
I grew up going there, Jim. I grew up in New York, and my dad used to take us to games at the Garden all the time, whether it was the Rangers and the Knicks. And it's not a beautiful place. I mean, they've done it.
Yeah, it's not about aesthetics.
It's not about aesthetics. It's just you sense that you're on Broadway. You sense that you are in the Mecca, and all the history of Madison Square Garden. You think about all the great players who've come through there and had amazing performances like Jordan and Embiid and people like Kobe and all that. So yeah, it's a really cool place, and the fact that it's in Midtown Manhattan just makes it even cooler.
Well, I think that required reading should be Woody taken, and of all people, Woody, who has a a long history there, but have those players walk around the concourse.
Yes.
I remember doing that when I was there. The only time I was there for the Big Ten tournament a few years ago, I was there by myself early because I was doing a show, and I'm walking around, and they've got all these pictures up, which a lot of places do, but this is on the concourse, and you start looking at these photos, and it's Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier.
Yeah.
Marilyn Monroe singing "Happy Birthday, Mr. President" to John F. Kennedy.
Right.
It's sport. It's these other sporting events. But these are historical things, and it's like, wow. If you don't get moved, I don't know what to
Then you're not a sports fan or a fan of history, because that place has been the site of. I remember as a kid, and this shows you how old I am. Muhammad Ali against Joe Frazier, one of the greatest fights, certainly in the trilogy between those two. You think about the Thrilla in Manila and all the others, but that fight at Madison Square Garden was an absolute war.
Absolutely, and back in those days, they could smoke in there, right?
I think so. You could smoke. You could smoke in a plane back then.
What cracked me up is here you would have this big time athletic event where these guys have trained for months and months, and they go into an arena that is filled of smoke.
Yeah,
everybody's in there smoking, and
right.
It would crack me up. You could see the haze in the background from all those lights. I'm like going.
I've seen pictures of old Pacers games at the old Fairgrounds Coliseum, and you can see this haze. It looks like a Fish concert.
Indiana football. They close, but not close enough last week against Illinois. That was a game. Back and forth. Indiana gets out to a lead. They give that lead back up. Then they go down. Then they fight back, show resolve with that, force an overtime before losing in overtime to Illinois. But not only do they lose that game, but that ended their postseason bowl hopes, and is also forcing, we'll get to that, but that is going to force a decision by Indiana at the end of this season.
You got $25 million, buddy?
It's 20. It's 20.
It's 20, whatever the hell it is. It's a lot of money. But I just feel like they're running out the clock on the Tom Allen era. I feel like they're just waiting till they either find the money or it gets down to $7.95 million.
Well, here's the thing. That's what you got to look at it as. It's a $12 million buyout because you're conceding the $8 million already.
Right.
So now you've got that turns it into a $12 million buyout. And can you find guys that are willing to do that?
Right.
4 guys. Because it's the timing. If this was not the year, if next year was not the year that Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA were coming into the Big Ten, I don't know that it would be as big of a decision, impending decision as this one is. But because it's the new Big Ten, it's a new dawning. I do think I've said all year long that it wasn't going to happen, that's just not going to happen. And within the last couple of weeks, I've changed my mind. Okay. I said, if they do not beat Illinois, if they do not remain bowl eligible, that a change would be imminent. And I think that will be the case. As hard as that is to swallow, I think Texas A&M may make it a little easier for Indiana to do that, a little more palatable if that's possible. But I saw another piece somewhere, Bob, that in like the last 2 years, close to $200 million of dead money has been paid. And by dead money, I mean
coaches,
just people to go away.
Yeah.
Coaches to not coach.
Yeah.
Head coaches and some of that. Just a little piece. Just
Bob, what's up, please?
I say it all the time. Me and Bob will go away for a pittance. I mean, we'll do it. We'll make you a team offer, man. I mean, we'll do it for $10 million. Save you guys hundreds of millions.
I'll go 5.
Yeah, we'll split the 10 equally.
I'll be fine. Yeah,
absolutely.
Hey, can we talk about something really, really quick? Are you up against it?
No.
Okay. Did you read this Charissa Thompson stuff?
Oh, yes. I'm glad you brought that up, Robert.
All right. I am so angry and
mortified,
and a lot of the people in that business who do the sideline reporting. Now,
John,
granted,
you can find that.
Granted, sideline reporting is not exactly Watergate. Okay, it's not the height of journalistic expression, but it's still important. And it is mightily important that you're honest with your viewers and your readers or whatever the case may be. And the fact that she not only made stuff up, but seems to think it was kind of funny and cool to do that is a slap in the face of every person, men and women, who've ever done this job or continue to do this job. I think about locals who do it so well, whether it's Jeremiah Johnson or Lara Overton, our old friend Trisha Whitaker down in Tampa. I mean, they do it right. There's only one real rule in journalism: don't make shit up. Excuse my language once again.
Well, that's the thing. I'm like, I sent out a tweet. I said, hey, it is disgusting. It's first of all, to do it is disgusting, but then to openly kind of mock it is, she's not a journalist. She's not a journalist.
No,
she's not a journalist. She's a talking head, and there's no way. I sent out a tweet that says, I don't know if this is going to affect her career. And
it should. I'd fire her ass right away.
Oh, I guarantee it. I mean, how do you keep her on your payroll? How do you put her out there? There's no credibility. Zero credibility.
Zero integrity. If I was a coach, I would not talk to her because I don't know.
Apparently, some have not already.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I don't know if she's going to make stuff up. I don't know if she's going to be honest. Look, we're all wrong from time to time. I've been wrong more times than I'd rather think about. But that's based on information that we get. And sometimes that information is not accurate, or it's not as accurate as we think that it is. Look, we all screw up. But I can honestly say that in my 40-something year career, and I think this is true of 99% of the people in my business, don't make stuff up. If you don't talk to somebody, don't quote them. It's easy.
See, that's the one thing I just can't even imagine doing that, because that's why I know people that will lie about stuff, stupid stuff sometimes too, for no reason, whatever. And I'm one of those people that pay attention to certain details. And boy, when I hear something that I know is a damn fabrication, it goes through me like a lightning bolt, and my ADHD kicks in, and it's hard for me not to call that out a lot. So for myself, I can't just lie. I'm just the fear of being caught in a lie. It just drives me nuts.
Look, as a journalist, all you have is your integrity, and if you throw that away, especially in a casual, sort of way, you don't deserve to be employed. Certainly is it Fox that employs her? I don't see.
Maybe.
No. I think she's with Fox. I'd have to double check, but whoever her employer is they need to get her out there apologizing profusely, and then they have to decide whether to keep her. there are a lot of really talented young men and women who would give their left leg to do that job, and she clearly doesn't take it seriously.
I'm trying to find those comments, but we'll have to find those.
Well, it's on a podcast. It's on some kind of podcast, I think, or some podcast. Some podcast.
We'll find those. For those of you that didn't hear it, she just openly admitted that sometimes on a sideline, when a team that comes back out and they come to her, and she'll just say, yeah, I spoke with Coach Kravitz, and he said that they've got to get to the quarterback more. They've got to get some pressures. They've got to get their running backs out in space, or that blah, blah, blah. She would just make that up.
Right.
And even though that is very benign,
right,
it is very benign. It's not the point. What are you going to say that's not benign? You've totally lost credibility. But not only that, she is hurting her industry. I mean, I know that I've seen Tracy Wolfson and many other
Laura Osterman
just lashing out, and with good reason. I've seen IU students. I've seen female media students from IU send that out, as they should, because now's the time you learn.
The shame of it, Jim, is that the sideline reporting gig seems to be mostly female. And you've still got these Neanderthals out here who think, what the hell are women doing on the sideline or in the booth or whatever, who just don't think that women should be involved in men's sports. And this gives them an opportunity to say, see, you can't take it seriously. They're not serious journalists. And I think it not only hurts the profession, but it hurts a specific gender, because they are not taken seriously, and for by and large, they absolutely should be.
Yep, I did not admit I chopped down the cherry tree 5 lefts, but I did send out a tweet a while back that said, "Hey, I may be the only, let me be the first and possibly only member of the IU media to admit I was wrong on Trace Jackson Davis and his possibilities in the NBA. I just didn't think that he was going to make it." And I had someone come back and say, "Yeah, because you were the only one." And I'm like, BS. I was not. I was far from the only one. But hey, I admit, hey, he's making it happen. So I was wrong. And there's one thing to get something wrong. I'm not going to make it up, but getting it wrong is okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I said the Colts would win 3 games this year. I was wrong. Big freaking deal. But you can't make stuff up. It's the first rule of journalism. I mean, you learn that in 3rd grade. Don't make stuff up. So anyway, if she's still employed by next Sunday, I will be mildly shocked.
Well, I know I've got to let you go. What do you think happens? Well, I guess we've got time to talk about IU football solution. We've got 2 more games. So IU going to Indiana, going to Madison Square Garden. That could be ugly, or that could be surprising for people, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what type of team UConn's got this year. You probably know better. I'm sure you know better than I do. I have not followed.
They ain't bad.
Huh?
They ain't bad.
They ain't bad. I mean, they won a national title last year. I don't know how many guys they got coming back, but it'll be a good test for Indiana. Like I say, they have just got to make their free throws and defend the perimeter. And I still think they can be a decent team, but I don't know that they're a top 4 team in the Big Ten.
We'll certainly find out. Yeah, not right now. They're not. I agree. No. They're not. But they can become that. Bob Kravitz from bobkravitz.com. Very easy to get to. Go there. It is covering everything right now. Of course, a focus on the Colts with some Pacers. Are you covering the Pacers at all?
Yes, I'm going to the Pacers game on Sunday after the IU game. So I'm going to do kind of I'm using a sports writer and write about a little bit of everything.
Well, we'll have a double dip there, and we'll see how that goes. But make sure you give him a follow, bobkravitz.com. Tons of content there. Great stuff.
Bob. Not this week. I'm taking the bye week off, but Otherwise, there'll be tons of content. I promise.
Well, you can go there and read the past stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, you need a marketing agent.
I know.
Bob Kravitz, can't thank you enough, brother. Have a great weekend.
You too, buddy. Take care of yourself.
You bet. Hey, we've got more Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming up. We'll be back with it right after this break.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market. All right. I got a lot of.
This will be a short.
Got a lot of problems with you people. That's a clip I need to have in. If I ever learn how to use that. Where is this notepad? Oh my God. We got too many notepads and stuff to do. Lists that still are not crossed off. What'd you say? Uh-huh. Yeah, there's Carissa Thompson was on a podcast, and she's a sideline reporter, and I don't know what the question was. I don't know what prompted it, but she was talking about when a coach comes out of the locker room for the halftime break. You know how they'll grab them. Coach, what do you guys need to do in the second half? What's your offense got to do?
Oh, I know the story. When you initially said, John, can you pull that up? I was not paying attention to what Bob had said, so I didn't know what you were talking about.
I got it. Yeah, one of the clips I need to get on that Roadcaster. I got a lot of problems with you people. Nice little quick, easy segment here, right?
Yep, it'll be pretty short.
Pretty short. Do you have any clips from IU basketball?
Shoot, hold on. I didn't think about for this segment. Give me. Shoot. No, I don't. If you give me about 2.5 minutes after we get back from break, I might have.
Yeah. Oh no, it's no problem. I'm trying to go back to where the.
I just forgot to grab a couple.
You know what? I'll send you the.
No, I don't need the transcript. I'll just make it even longer at this point. I can find one from Woody. Just give me a couple minutes and I'll text you when I have one.
All right,
here we go. Build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. How are you? Hope you're ready for the weekend. It's going to be a lot. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in Bloomington, for one thing. Man, oh man, I sent out a tweet last night of the impending weekend schedule for me. It's kind of funny. I was able to go to the soccer game, Indiana men's soccer taking on Lipscomb in round 1 of the NCAA tournament, their 37th consecutive appearance, 48th overall in the NCAA men's soccer tournament, both records. They defeated Lipscomb 2-1 It was 2-0. Lipscomb somehow got a late goal. I was gone by then. I was able to stay for the first goal. And about that time, I parked at Assembly Hall and walked over to Armstrong Stadium. And first of all, that's a good walk all the way to the corner if you're familiar with the complex. And then once you get across the street and then start heading towards Armstrong Stadium, it's all uphill. And when you're walking, you notice that. Thank gosh it was downhill on the way back. But congratulations to Todd Yeagley and the Indiana men's soccer program as they continue their winning ways. How many they won in a row now? They've got a winning streak going as well. Something else I noticed last night in that Minnesota-Missouri game, not only is Tamar Bates on Missouri's team, but for those of you down in southern Indiana, specifically New Albany, and I saw someone mention it earlier, I think, but Sean East. And if you want to give credit to somebody, someone asked why Indiana didn't ever offer Sean East. I'll tell you why. Because he wasn't ready when he came out of high school, number one. Number two, he was overlooked. But he was a skinny little kid that needed to go someplace else first. But Indiana could sure use him. Let me tell you. Romeo Langford received a lot of praise in high school. He scored a lot of points. But he does not achieve what he did without, first of all, who was the receiver that went to Purdue? David Bell. David Bell is actually from New Albany. It was on the New Albany basketball team. I think it was 2016 when New Albany won the state title with Romeo and David Bell. Also a guy named Sean East. New Albany would not get back to a Final Four after that. But Romeo got all the attention. Sean East was a major piece of that. And just didn't get the acknowledgement, I think. But I don't think he was ready for Division I basketball yet, and he was probably 2 years away, in my opinion. Yes, John?
Oh, it's just about time for break.
Okay.
Ready.
But so Sean East he went out and where all did he go? Man, he fought through. He went to school someplace else. I think he may have been at Southeast Missouri. Now he's at Missouri and balling out. Congratulations to Sean East. He's where he is strictly through hard work. He never gave up on himself, and congratulations. His hard work is showing. I'm a Floyd Central guy, so that's hard for me to do. You don't understand. New Albany was our dead-up rival, and I still carry that to this day. But props to Sean East, man. Congratulations to him. Love to see what he's done. We got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio in our next hour. Zach Osterman will join us. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. Plenty to talk about. Brought to you by our good friend Cheryl Sizemore and Remax Realty. For those looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore's 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Damn it. Damn it, Janet. Yeah. Man, if Mackenzie Mbako gets into that groove, Indiana has a good team because Ware and Renew,
It's a good combo.
well, last night there was a play where there's two things. For one thing, Malik Renew ended up with the ball on a rebound, was coming up floor and would normally look to give it up to a guard, but about half court, he kind of noticed that he wasn't completely being picked up, and so he kept pushing, and then he just saw a seam and took it and dunked it, and that stood out to me. That was smart thinking. He was going to give it up if need to be, but he waited, and they gave him the opportunity, and he took it. Then there was another play which Khalil Ware had the ball at the free throw line and goes up over the top.
All right, I got to cut you off. Zach's here, and we only got 10 seconds. Here we go. You can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group. This segment is brought to you by The Ugly Grouper. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by WOW Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. I hope you're ready for the weekend. If not, we're going to get you headed in that direction. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star with us now. And Zach, welcome aboard. Thanks. Appreciate you being with us as always.
How we doing?
Cannot complain. Nobody's wanting to listen to that. So I've been talking to other people instead. But talking about Indiana's game last night, I know that a lot of fans was worried and just kind of focusing on some of the negatives. But there are some things that are coming together right now, and I think that's what everybody has to understand. It may take a minute for this stuff to come together, but one thing that is moving in a positive direction is the play of Malik Renew and Khalil Ware, and especially together. I mentioned there was a couple of moments last night, one in which Malik had grabbed a rebound and was coming up the floor, would have given it up to a guard and kind of looked, but no one pressured him. And as he moved forward, he sees the seam and just goes to the basket and dunks it, which was a great move on his. And then later on, he's below the basket, Khalil Ware at the free throw line, and he takes it up over the top to Renew for another basket. Those two guys are playing well together. Khalil Ware has been consistent in every game for Indiana. He has been doing what you would need him to do. Indiana is just a few things away from being a decent team, which it's not that they're not a decent team right now, but I mean, as far as being a good team, Malik or Mackenzie Mbako, when his game, when he finds his lane, that could make this team a challenging opponent.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I understand anybody who's skeptical about where Indiana's at right now, and I'll be honest, I'm probably one of those people, in some respects. What I would say is I don't think it should necessarily have been a surprise to see Indiana maybe struggling a little bit, to see Indiana starting a little bit slowly this year. The question is basically just how far can they come? That's what I would argue is basically just how much ground are they going to be able to make up before they can get to the part of the season where ultimately you kind of have to stop being a work in progress and start putting results on the board. I don't think they're anywhere near that right now. I think there is a plausible future where this stretch kind of they're going through at the moment is good for them long term to sort of maybe not build any false sense of confidence and give them a really sort of long, hard look at where they need to improve, what needs to get better, etc. I think that you also do see, I would say glimpses and windows. I think there were probably more of them last night, stretches where it seems like Indiana figures it out a little bit, where Indiana sort of realizes, how to put all the pieces in the right places to play the kind of basketball it's capable of. And, to your point about, I wrote about Ware last night, a little bit about Renew too. You do have some of these individuals that you feel like can kind of hold Indiana up for a little while and just kind of give Indiana some anchor points while they try to figure out the wider issues. But I'm also obviously not ignorant of, what Indiana has struggled with and the fact that Indiana still has a long way to go if it wants to be the kind of team that, that puts together the sort of season that I think it thinks it's capable of.
Yeah, I know it's shocking. Look at the amount of 3-point shots they've given up, not taken, but made. I mean, my gosh, some of these teams are just knocking them down, and there's so much discussion about why this is. And, last night I did the post-game show with Todd Leary, and he believes it's just anticipation, that these guys are not anticipating what they need to be and where they need to be quick enough and getting out on that guy. But there's no question they're leaving guys wide open for shots, and they're more than happy to take those and knock them down as they have. But Indiana's overall game has been so strong that hasn't been enough for anyone to beat them yet. Although that's not a recipe I would recommend for long term, but I think that's something hopefully for Indiana fans that they do get better at, that they reduce that. Also, I think that the size of these teams they're playing is going to change immensely once the schedule changes as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're right. You're gonna, I think that some of the physical matchups are going to be different when you're starting to play teams that will come with bigger, more athletic players, and I think Indiana's still figuring out sort of what it wants to be defensively. Like at the beginning of the season, we saw so much switching from this team, and it seems like already Indiana has backed off of a fair bit of that, which is sort of interesting to me. But I think the big question I just have about this team is basically when it gets into these high major games, and I don't think it necessarily needs to win, against UConn, but can it just kind of stay connected enough defensively? Because right now what happens, like people talk about open threes, but a big part of the reason you're getting open threes is because Indiana's just way too easy to drive on right now. And How many times was Wright State putting a foot in the lane with the ball in their hands? A Wright State player yesterday, and that's what leads to, and it's really easy to, criticize a Mackenzie Mbako or a Gabe Cups, when Aaron Wellage is wide open again. And it's very possible that they've been told, don't leave your man under any circumstances. And so they're making that mistake. But every instinct in you as a basketball player says, if you see your teammate getting collapsed on the drive toward the rim, you dig down to help. And the point is, if you're not getting beat off the dribble, then you shouldn't have as much trouble guarding the 3-point line. So I just think that generally speaking, this team, again, we knew, and people like you and me said all off season, they're going to be a work in progress. It's going to be slow. It's going to be ugly at points. It's a different experience to have to live that than to just sort of acknowledge that it's a possibility. But I think what I'm most curious about as we do start to see Indiana in some of these more high major games is, essentially, can you almost learn on the fly a little bit? And once you sort of see, okay, this is what it looks like when we play the kind of teams that we're going to need to beat if we want to get to where we want to go. That's what I'm trying to say. Do things change? Because I think, realistically, yes, you can say, well, these, there won't be so many smaller guard-oriented matchups and yada, yada, yada. But the flip side is you'll be dealing with teams that are bigger, more athletic, more refined in their offensive process, and more capable of hurting you if you get broken down the way Indiana has.
Yeah, and there's some other things. They got out-rebounded last night by that team, which that's something that definitely has to be fixed. He mentioned it. I think he got one rebound from the guards, and I didn't know that stat, but I mentioned earlier that they're not getting a ton of rebounds from the guards, and I don't know what that's going to take for them. Are they standing around a little bit more? I haven't paid attention to that, but everybody has to be involved, and that's the one thing I'm not sure that everyone is always involved all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. First of all, on the sly, Indiana was not great rebounding the ball last year. They had an opponent rebounding rate of 29%, which was 205th in the country, according to Ken Pomeroy. So, which
is amazing considering the bigs that they had and have this year.
And they were solid in that number. Opponent offensive rebounding percentage is what percentage of available offensive rebounds does your opponent secure? So basically, how good are you at clearing the glass? They were pretty good at it in Woodson's first year. They were 64th in the country, but that was also, frankly, a season when Indiana really kind of just had to grind games out, did not want to play fast at all. And it's not like they were playing super fast by the end of last season. They were 145th in adjusted tempo, but they clearly want to play faster this season. And I understand why. It's not just because transition offense is better than half-court offense. It's also because of, the extent to which when you have Khalil Ware, Mackenzie Mbako, Xavier Johnson, Trey Galloway, CJ Gunn, Caleb Banks, those are big, long, athletic bodies, flooding toward the rim. And it's not by accident that if we talk about something Indiana's done well over these first 3 games, they're 6th in the country in free throw rate. They're shooting free throws at a remarkable rate right now. And again, some of that is the matchups, but some of it is also, I think, proof of Indiana's aggressiveness offensively. And I bring all that up to say, number one, Indiana wasn't a great rebounding team last year. So there may be some things that, some systemic things that carry over from one to the other. And number two, if you want to run, that's great, but that means that you need to send bodies up the floor. And if you have everybody coming back to crash the glass, to secure the rebound, and listen, it's a coach said this to me a long time ago. If you can't rebound, you can't defend, because if you can't rebound and you can't close out possessions, then you can't talk about how well you played in defense until, you actually finish the possession and start back down the floor. But if you want to run, you can't send 4 guys to the glass. So, and if you're a team that, both because of, your defensive profile and the ways that teams don't want to attack you, and also because of maybe teams' willingness to be a little bit more aggressive from behind the 3-point line, you're a team that's going to deal with a lot more long rebounds than normal, because teams are going to take more jumpers and more threes. That's tricky. I mean, that is a relatively narrow needle to thread between saying we need to be a better rebounding team, but also saying, well, we need to be a better rebounding team. We need our guards to do the rebounding. We're going to be giving up more long rebounds just by virtue of the way we play and the virtue of the way opponents are probably going to approach us. But also we want to run, which means we need to send bodies down the floor. But if you're sending bodies down the floor, then that means you're probably going to be outnumbered securing the ball. It's tricky.
Yeah, and then they haven't had much problems with this yet so far this year, especially through preseason injury bugs. Last night, X went down late in the game with, I'm just guessing, it looked from my distance like what you would call a high ankle sprain. Watching the replays, it looked like he stepped on the opponent high.
Yeah, I think he stepped
on. So I don't think it's a serious injury, but it's one of those that could keep him out of a game. I'm not predicting that he's in or out because I don't know. And if he can't go, of course, it's going to be Gabe Cupps that steps into that position. And that's a lot to throw at him, although Gabe Cupps has shown that he is not your typical freshman. But getting your first start at Madison Square Garden would certainly be something memorable.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, again, sort of the athletic challenge of a team like UConn. I also just think that the other thing, frankly, Indiana's just – I don't think Indiana's deep enough at guard right now to feel like you can lose any one of those guys for an extended period of time. And, hey, sometimes necessity is the mother of invention. Sometimes, taking a guy out of the lineup. I mean, we saw that a little bit last year with Jalen Hood-Schifino, that elevated Hood-Schifino's performance. But it is, I mean, it's tricky. If you can't, if you're going to the Garden without Xavier Johnson, that is, I mean, just to be honest, that's problematic.
Yeah. And we won't find that out until later. But that's certainly something to keep an eye on. Trey Galloway continues to be someone who is contributing, but I still think they need him to contribute. His points, he's able to get them in a lot of ways, and a lot of those I call them junk points, but I don't mean that in a negative way. Last night he turned I used the phrase turning lemons into lemonade. He fumbled a pass, was able to get it back, took it away from a defender, and took it to the rim. But from a shooting standpoint, he was 3 of 7 overall, 1 of 4 from behind the 3-point line. But he got to the free throw line a lot. Shot 80% there. Very important in that regard. So he's getting to the free throw line, and that's important for IU guards.
Yeah, he's also averaging 3.7 assists per game, which is really good. Actually, quietly, if you look at assist rates.
Wow, 6 assists last night.
Yeah, if you look at the tempo free numbers, Xavier Johnson's got the same assist rate as Khalil Ware and a lower assist rate than Trey Galloway and Malik Renew. And obviously you don't expect that to last, but I think that tells you that Indiana's comfortable putting the ball in Galloway's hands to make more plays, and that he's not just sort of an auxiliary point guard or ball handler the way he maybe had been at times in the last couple of years. He's still averaging 12 points per game. He's drawing 5.1 fouls per game, which is a really good number for a guy that, I think is good and athletic and is going to put the ball on the floor, but he's not, he's not Romeo Langford. He's not Eric Gordon, where there's just sort of, if he wants to bull his way to the rim, you just can't stop him. I think that it's his aggressiveness and his activity that are giving him kind of his opportunities. Obviously you need him to find his 3-point shot, but he's 2 of 7. So it's one of those things where it's kind of like, well, you say, he's shooting 28.6%, but if one more of those threes had gone in, he'd be shooting close to 43%. I think more than that, what you need is to try and see if you can find a way to get him a little bit more volume than basically 2 attempts a game. But I don't know. I mean, I think he's been fine. I think he's, I think he and Johnson are the 2 players that have sort of tried to hold their hands up most in terms of taking responsibility for stuff. But yeah, I mean, 11 assists to 5 turnovers through his first 3 games, couple steals. Last night was actually the first game where he was whistled for a foul, which is pretty remarkable. I think the 2 things that probably Indiana need to come around with him are the 3-point shooting and like Mike Woodson talked about, and you mentioned the guard rebounding.
Yeah, the 3-point shooting again last night between Trey Galloway and Mackenzie Mbako, they go 2 for 11, and those are the 2 guys they need to knock those shots down. Mackenzie, we've talked about, he's still I don't know if I want to use the word struggling, but adjusting. That was only his 3rd collegiate game since coming out of high school, and I think he's still making that adjustment to the speed of the game because he's been practicing against Indiana practice players up until now. And so he needs to find a rhythm. I think he just hasn't found his rhythm yet. Once he does, that's a component that this team that I think will take this team up a notch.
You're talking about Mbako?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry. I thought I got confused between him and I thought he looked a lot better last night. And I thought, obviously, the numbers bear that out to some extent. He had 13 points, 5 rebounds, a couple assists. I just thought he had a better sense for where to find his points, I guess, and frankly, I think listen, some of this is going to be his defense and his energy and all that kind of stuff. And Mike Woodson has not been shy about saying that out loud. Some of it is, to be fair to Mbako, Indiana needing to understand better how to get him involved. And this is one of those many things that there are just layers on layers of things that it should not be surprising Indiana's not great at right now. And one of them is Indiana's never had a player like this. Not under Mike Woodson anyway, a player that, is kind of the true, the old sort of basketball cliche of the corner man that can run off screens, can get downhill, that's too big to be guarded by a guard, but too athletic to be guarded by a true forward. You think of some of the players Indiana struggled with in the recent past, your Murray twins, your Johnny Davises, your Ron Harper Juniors. When was the last time Indiana had a player like that? Victor Oladipo kind of becomes that, but he's more of a true guard than maybe you call it a wing. Romeo Langford, I think, at times played that way, but it was never consistent. Of course, he was injured. I think Indiana's still figuring out how to get Mbako involved, and I think last night you saw maybe the player look a little bit more comfortable with, saying, this is how I fit, and you saw the team maybe look a little bit more comfortable with, hey, this is how we get him in rhythm, and this is how we get him, get the shots he needs to get. 1 of 7 from 3 obviously isn't great, but I think his history tells you, he's probably going to make a couple more of those. And they were, I think, for the most part, at least I haven't watched it back yet, but for the most part, I think those were good shots. And it's kind of one of those where, you're reminded of the fine margins on these things. If 2 of those threes go in, then he's 3 of 7. He's 5 of 9 from the field, and he scores 19 points on 9 shots. And, one of the things we're talking about today is, wow, look at Mackenzie Mbako, 19 points on 9 shots, made some threes, finally looked like he was comfortable and in rhythm with, kind of where the offense needed him to be. He's got to keep improving, no doubt, but I think it was encouraging to see not just him play better and maybe show a little bit more understanding of kind of how he fit and where best he fit in the offense, but also it looked like Indiana was more comfortable sort of figuring out where to get him the ball.
And something else that just coming out, Dan Hurley says that Stefan Castle, after an MRI, will miss some time with a knee injury. It's not season ending, but he basically will not be playing in the Indiana game. So
that's a shame. I feel for him and Ja'Kai Newton, man. I mean, they played together in high school, and I guess now they're both going to be in sweats for this game in college. That's a shame for the two of them. I know I know it was something that seemed to really have meant a lot to their families, but
well, because these moments don't come along all the time, so it is sad. Right. But what's up next for you, Zach?
Well, New York, man, the city's so nice they named it twice. The city of 10,000 dreams, 10,000 dreams in one parking space.
I'm going to try to catch the first quarter of the football game tomorrow. I'm probably being silly, but I was going to try to catch that and then head to the airport. But we'll see you up there, man. I appreciate you. Safe travels.
Absolutely. Sounds good, Jim. Thanks for having me as always.
You bet. Thank you, Zach Osterman from Indy Star. Make sure you give him a follow. Be a subscriber. I am. We've got lots more coming up on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Ugly Grouper on Anna Maria Island. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat Radio sent you. Have you a grouper sandwich. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. All right, we could do that Woodson sound when we come back, and this will be a short segment again before we bring on Travis Miller. Hopefully his sound working okay today. I remember he's had some sound issues the past couple of weeks.
Who that?
Travis.
Dun 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 dun. Green Acres is the place to be. I don't know why stuff comes to my brain. David.
I'd say it depends on how these last two games go for real. I've said that a bunch. If they don't win, and honestly, I almost feel like they need to win in fairly dominant fashion, then you have reason to keep them one more year. Well, you can't say that it ain't going to happen because you don't know it's going to happen, but it's unlikely to happen.
I can say that.
Well, but you just don't know, though. You can say whatever you want. I know what you're saying.
Well, of course I don't know, but of course it's my opine.
Yeah. I mean, I do think there is merit to if they're able to win these last two, depending on and how. Like if they're like fluky
I
wins,
think that's a good argument. I think it's a good argument. I just just disagree is all. I'm not saying it's a bad argument. Yeah, sure. It's a good argument, but I also think that
Here we go. Only 3 seconds.
no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, high atop the 18th fairway. Man, it was like 70 degrees yesterday. I never find this stuff out until I'm about ready to leave to go do something, and I'll yell at I don't want to say echo, because he'll start talking. What's the temperature? And I'm like, what? 70 degrees? Missing all these beautiful fall days. Yeah, I just mentioned that Dan Hurley says Stephen Castle, which is a major component for the Yukon Huskies, will be missing some time. He will not be playing against Indiana. So there's a possibility Indiana will be without Xavier Johnson. I don't know that. But UConn will be without an important piece. Of course, so was Wright State last night. And we saw what that mattered. None. If Xavier can't go, this is going to afford Gabe Cupps, an opportunity. Not that he hasn't had those this year already, but this is going to put him up front and center, and in a situation where you have to grow up quick. But if anybody can probably do it, he has shown that he has that penchant for being able to do that. But it should be an exhilarating weekend. Indiana men's soccer winning last night means they move on to play in the second round of the NCAA tournament. They'll be traveling to Wake Forest. I don't know when that is. I'll have to check. Tonight, Indiana women's basketball team, who are coming off a shellacking at the hands of Stanford, take on Murray State. That's at 7 p.m. Tomorrow, the football team takes on Michigan State at noon. I'm going to try to catch the first quarter and then head to the airport, fly to New York for Indiana's games on Monday and Tuesday, or Sunday and Monday. And so it's a busy, it just doesn't stop. It does not stop. Jim Harbaugh has accepted, and Michigan has accepted the 3-game suspension. They were supposed to be in court this morning. By God, Jim Harbaugh's I'm going to be there. This is where, boy, that kind of went away. I think it's starting to dawn on them. You know, they've all been posturing this whole time. Oh, well, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to sue. Let's get the lawmakers involved. Well, that just quietly went away, didn't it? It was kind of like when Nick Saban complained about Jimbo Fisher having a team that was bought, and Jimbo Fisher said, hold on, I was the assistant over there. You want me to start talking? Almost as good as my favorite clip involving an Alabama player and calamari. One of my favorite appetizers. It's only if it's done right. I had it recently when I went to Florida for a wedding, and I had calamari. You know, I hate going to a restaurant in Florida when they don't. They had, daggone it. It was a soup, clam chowder. And I asked, do you all make your own soup? No. And I'm like, what are we doing here? We're at a seafood place on the waterway, and you ought to make your own soup. So no bueno to that. But you don't happen to have that clip handy, do you, John Boy?
I've never seen. Well, I heard you reference it, and I don't know what you're talking about. I've never seen
calamari. Come on.
It's news.
No, I have. Oh man, no, I have not played against.
Maybe it may be one of your favorite clips, but we've never played it when I've been on here.
Oh, done tons of times. No, I have not played against calamari, and I don't think that he's up. I'm good. Really? You don't remember that? Man, we played it a ton, but it's been a while. They were Alabama.
You probably played it a ton over the course of your radio career, but
I'm telling you, it was
not with me. I promise. And I have a good memory. I feel like.
Well, I'm telling you, we'll discuss it more later. But they were getting ready to prepare for a bowl game, and they were talking to the Alabama players and one of the linemen. He's an NFL lineman now. I can never remember his name. He used to always know his name, but they asked him if he'd ever played against a player the caliber of Kyler Murray. And it was, no, I have not played against calamari, and I don't think calamari is, I'm good.
Never
it
mind.
Was like,
I know what you're talking about now.
Yes, thank you.
We don't have the clip, but I know what you're talking about now.
It was like Nick Saban reached down from the cloud and grabbed him by the throat, and I'm good. I've never seen anything like it. It will remain one of my all-time favorite clips. Let's take a quick break. Up next, Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. We'll get more into some Big Ten hoops, see what's going on with Purdue and the rest of the weekend. Back with more right after this, brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, down in southern Indiana, right off of I-65 on Veterans Parkway. Pizza, burgers, beer, incredible food, all made fresh daily, and an abundance of TVs. What a place to watch a ball game. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, maybe this will actually work this week. I'd hope so.
You sound good right now.
Hey, imagine that.
Don't say that. Don't jinx it.
Let me see if I've got that calamari. I don't think we have the calamari.
I couldn't believe. I was like going, damn it! It's me and you that's played that thing.
It's
been a while.
On me.
It's been a while.
We've only played it, I think, one time. What do I have? I have a bunch of weird stuff on here. I'm just trying to see.
It is one of my favorites. I can never remember who the player was. This has been at least 4 years ago. They were playing against Kyler. Alabama was playing against Kyler Murray.
So it would have been Oklahoma. Murray went to Oklahoma, didn't he?
Yes.
Okay.
Not Texas Tech.
See, when you said Alabama clip, this one is the one that I always think is one of the funniest ones.
Right, like now that I'm taking my time for the next 3 to 4 years.
That one is great. The mom, the grandma are wearing Alabama sweatshirts. There's a girl behind him wearing an Alabama shirt. He picks up the Florida hat and puts it on. His mom just stands up and walks away. That is one of the, but see, that's visual. You got to see that one visually. But the Kyler Murray thing was, I can't remember the linemen. There was a lineman for Alabama, and they asked him, have you ever played against a quarterback the caliber of Kyler Murray? And no, I have not played against calamari, but I don't think calamari is. I'm good. I swear to God, it was like Nick Saban reached down from the sky, grabbed him by the throat, and shut him up. It is just freaking hilarious. Well, at least I find it hilarious.
Well, my favorite fun fact about Nick Saban is he has an active 3-game losing streak to Purdue, and that's why Alabama's afraid to play Purdue.
That is hilarious. So he personally has a 3.
Yep. Purdue beat them in 1997, 98, and 99, and then he got scared and went off to the SEC.
Oh, when he was at, so 2 of those were at Michigan State.
No, all 3 were at
They were
Michigan
all
State.
Michigan State.
Oh. Gotcha.
He got scared and went to the SEC. He doesn't want that smoke.
All because he couldn't beat Purdue, right?
Yep. I mean,
hey, man.
All right, here we
Take
go.
whatever
guys.
you can get. For just $299. That's better than a birdie. But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Playing a little air guitar here this day. How are you? Welcome on this happy Friday. Hope you're having a good one. Ready for the weekend. We're going to get you there. There's a lot going on this weekend. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload joins us. Purdue rivals. There is a slate of games in the Big Ten this weekend, of course. Michigan traveling to Maryland. Now, they will have Jim Harbaugh with them, but he just can't be on the sideline. I'm like I've said, I'm like, really? You think he's not on a phone somewhere with somebody in an earpiece? I could care less. I would love to see next week. I cannot wait. If Ryan Day beats Michigan at Michigan in the Big House, I would walk out to the middle where the handshake goes and point up to the press box as if Harbaugh's up there or whatever, but or send Harbaugh some roses. But Michigan taking on a Maryland team this weekend that they should have a little trouble with, even though they're on the road. Rutgers travels to Penn State. Penn State, that should be a get-right game for them. Indiana hosting Michigan State. We'll get back to that one. Northwestern hosting Purdue. We'll get back to that one. Illinois, Iowa. You would think that would be a game that there could possibly be some points scored, but Illinois puts up 46 points last week, 500 passing yards. Of course, that's against Indiana, not against the stifling Iowa defense. And then Illinois is going back to their starting quarterback, Travis, which I'm like,
why?
He's in a groove. Not only did he do that against Indiana, he stepped in cold the week before against Minnesota in the last 50 seconds and throws the winning touchdown. Why? See, I get the starter has not deserved to lose his spot, but it's not about that to me. It's like, I got to ride this. And you know what? If he has a crappy first quarter, fine, make the change back. But if he's still rolling, we're still going to ride this train. I would ride that train until it lost steam.
Now, especially since last year's Iowa-Illinois game was an affront to God when it comes to football. I believe it ended 9-6, and nobody wins when a game ends 9-6. But I mean, that's just what Iowa does these last 2 years. I don't get it. I don't know how they keep getting away with this. I don't know how they keep getting away with it, though.
Yeah, well, they're fortunate. I think, for one thing, they're fortunate scheduling-wise. They're playing against a watered-down Big Ten West this year, because if this is another year, well, there's still not a lot of offensively minded teams, but say Wisconsin used to be at least, and the crossover games, who do they play in their crossover games? They must have gotten away with playing against Rutgers or something like that. I'd have to look that up, but
they did get Rutgers last week, 22-0, and I know they played Penn State. They lost Penn State. I think they got Michigan State as their other one. Yeah,
they got
Michigan
blanked,
State.
and they got blanked by Penn State, 31-0. They gave up 31 points to the Nittany Lions and scored nothing. So the Buckeyes, little tune-up, hosting Minnesota before they travel to the Big House, and Wisconsin is hosting Nebraska. That should be an interesting game.
Winner gets a bowl game.
Oh, wow. They're both sitting there. Oh.
Yeah, they're both 5-5. So winner gets a bowl game. Loser has to win next week. And it's entirely possible if Wisconsin loses, it's another winner gets a bowl game next week against Minnesota, because Minnesota's 5-5, but they go to Ohio State this week. So,
wow, there are a lot of teams that are sitting at that Mendoza line, especially on the left side, but everywhere. Indiana travels to, or is hosting Michigan State, rather, a game that I know Tom Allen needs to win because of the shaky status of his tenure, coming off of a game in which, and realistically, they should have won. The defense just disappeared. They gave up 300 passing yards in the first half to a backup quarterback, and then another 200 plus in the second half. I don't understand how you cannot make an adjustment, how you can't hold. They just couldn't hold a lead. What are you going to complain about the offense? They scored 43 points.
Yeah, and on the road, no less, too. But against the Big Ten West team. But, I mean, honestly, that should be the bigger indictment, is they gave up 40-plus points to a Big Ten West team. But, you know, you actually saw some offensive explosions last week with Illinois scoring, 47? Purdue had 49 against Minnesota. And honestly, it was the best offensive game of the season for Purdue. They had the running game going. Tyrone Tracy and Devin Mockabee both rushed for more than 100 yards. That's only the second time that's happened in the last 21 years at Purdue. And, it was good to see. And so I want to see if that keeps going this week. I think Indiana and Purdue, with the way that their offenses were last week, they've got a real shot to keep some positive momentum going this week.
Yeah, Purdue, and they have not had the season that they want. Absolutely. What are they standing at right now? 3-7?
3-7. But you get Northwestern and Indiana to finish the year. Those are two games that they can win. And I think if you go into the offseason, 5-7 isn't great, but you go into the offseason with a 3-game win streak, that'll help tremendously.
Oh, for Purdue, absolutely. I mean, they cannot get to a bowl game, but being that close, having that momentum to end the season, absolutely would be a positive note for the Boilermakers and for Ryan Walters, because I've said it a lot of times. I think Illinois is in the shape they're in because he's not there anymore. It was they took a step down, which I didn't expect, but I didn't realize how much losing Ryan Walters meant to them. So, but then we'll talk about Purdue and Indiana next week, because that comes down to that clash, and that's just going to be about pride. There will be nothing on the line next week other than pride, and well, we'll talk about that then. Penn State or Purdue this week, as you said, they're on the road at Northwestern, a winnable game, but Northwestern also has been a team that's been kind of up and down. But they're 5-5 right now, so they're playing for a bowl game. Almost everybody is playing for a bowl game, right? Except for Indiana, except for Purdue. They can be spoilers. Well, Indiana can't spoil anybody because neither Michigan State nor Purdue are going to bowls. But Purdue can be a spoiler maker this week by knocking off Northwestern, who is one game away from becoming bowl eligible.
Yeah, and they've alternated wins and losses every week this year. So since they won last week, they're due for a loss. And if you look at their offensive performances, it's almost like they know, because I think they've not scored more than 13 points in an odd numbered week, but in an even numbered week, they've not scored less than like 25. So, I mean, if you're going with those trends, then expect Northwestern to only score like 10 or 13, 10 to 14 this week.
Yeah, they are averaging 20 points a game, but they're also averaging only giving up 22 points a game. Of course, that math doesn't work out too well for you. But they're also kind of coming off of a boost. David Braun has been named the permanent head coach. They took the interim tag off of him. So I don't know if that is a rallying point for Northwestern. They're one game shy, like I said, of bowl eligibility. They have something to play for. So that could be the motivating factor for the Wildcats.
I would honestly name David Braun the Big Ten Coach of the Year. I mean, straight up. I know it's probably going to go to Ryan Day or Jim. We've suffered tremendous adversity, and I only coached 6 games, Harbaugh. But I think that David Braun deserves it. You have a Northwestern team that only won 4 games the last 2 years. They had to unexpectedly fire their coach in July. Braun last year at this time was the defensive coordinator at FCS North Dakota State. He had no idea he was going to be the permanent head coach at Northwestern, and he's come in and taken them to 5-5, and very possibly could go 7-5. I mean, how is that not the best coaching job in the Big Ten this year?
Absolutely. I would not disagree with you. And what a situation that it was. So, yeah, I can't argue with you, but guess who it's going to go to? Guess who it's
probably Ryan Day.
Guess who it's not going to go to?
Oh, it'll probably go to Jim. As I said, Jim, his full name is now I overcame tremendous adversity, yet I only coached half the season, Harbaugh.
Yeah, no way. You there's no way you win jack when you've been suspended for half the season, 2 different times for 2 different infractions. It's another. Michigan was supposed to be in court this morning. By God, Jim Harbaugh's going to be there. I'm going to court. And then they wisely tucked that tail and turned away. I think that they're becoming more aware of what the NCAA has and what the NCAA has as far as evidence and information. Not going to be good for Michigan. This seems to be a very, very well-oiled machine.
Can I at least comment on the farce of, crying after the game with all the, adversity and everything that they overcame against Penn State? I'm like,
God.
Really?
I mean,
this is self-inflicted. I mean, come on.
Does he have a SAG card? Screen. I mean, is this being nominated for a clip of the year? For actor in an emotional fake sports scene? Oh, and then, but he just do that. He was dropping F-bombs, man. How do you not know you're on national television with a mic shoved in your face?
I just don't get it. I don't get it. And just the manufactured outrage, have you seen where there's been talk of like, well, we should just leave the Big Ten because of how much we're persecuting us? I'm like, give me a freaking break.
Yeah, how long did that last? That shows you the ignorance. Those guys, those regents, they don't know what they don't know. That's the key. They're all jacked up. They've got, Michigan testosterone injected into them. So they're all, their blood's blue. And that's how they operate, and that's how they see the world first. And it takes, sometimes even the overwhelming proof doesn't even do it for certain people. But those people are ignorant and they don't know what they don't know. And I'm starting to think that the NCAA has the damning evidence that they need. And by, I don't mean one piece, I mean a litany and a string of things that tie this together. And I don't care what Harbaugh says. I don't care what Connor Stallion says. If you want to tell me that Jim Harbaugh did not know something of that scale was going on, you are full of crap. Coaches know what's going on. It's part of the damn game plans, for God's sake.
Whatever happened to the buck stops here, but being willfully ignorant in the face of overwhelming evidence seems to be a trait, and I'm not going any further than that. I don't need to make the FCC any money and whatnot. So, but you make a valid point. It's like, and I still don't think that they even needed to cheat. I mean, have you seen their schedule this year?
Apparently they did. I think this goes to beating one team for the most part, although it did not happen with just one team. But this was about beating Ohio State. They didn't beat Ohio. Jim Harbaugh went 0-7 for his first 7 seasons against the Buckeyes. They could not get past Ohio State. Plus, they kept losing to them, which did not sit well in Ann Arbor. The first time they beat them in 2021 coincides with when this scheme started. So I put 2 and 2 together and go, the math kind of adds up. Of course, that's looking at it from the outside, but I look forward to finding out more in the year 2048 when the NCAA completes their investigation.
Well, by then the Big Ten will have expanded to encapsulate the entire NCAA. So, we'll have Tuesday night basketball games. Indiana has to travel to the University of Sao Paulo and, for a critical conference game in the Big Ten Southeast North Division.
Here's a comment by Philip saying his Big Ten top 4 is Purdue, Illinois, Michigan State, and Michigan. You know what? Michigan's a little surprising right now. I don't know have they played anyone of caliber, but they played well. I will give you that. Maryland has got to be up there.
No, Maryland lost 2 games, like 2 games they shouldn't have. They lost to Davidson and somebody else.
I think they're a team that's going to be better than that. Ohio State, I don't know what they're going to be like, but Michigan has been playing well. There's no doubt about that. Purdue is going to be Purdue. I know that Zach Edey's lost some weight. Has that really made a difference for him?
I can't tell. I mean, he's still so good, and he had 28-11 Monday night against Xavier. And it was one of those games you look up like, wow, he's got 28 points. He missed a couple of, he missed 4 or 5 easy shots right at the rim. I thought he was struggling a little bit, but he's going to do what he's going to do. And I think it comes down to, as I've always said, what are Purdue's guards and wings going to do around him? And Miles Colvin, man, he has been excellent off the bench so far. He is shooting 70% from 3. If he wants to keep shooting 70% from 3, I'll take that.
Well, we'll certainly find out, and we'll be back to wrap all this up, the weekend stuff on Monday. Travis Miller with Boiler Upload for all the Purdue fans. Make sure you go there to get all your coverage and news on the Boilermakers, or if you're a competitor and you want to find out what's happening, go there and find out. Travis, appreciate you, brother. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You betcha. As always, Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. Make sure you give him a follow and go there. And big thanks to all of our guests today. Of course, Bob Kravitz from bobkravitz.com. The incomparable Bob Kravitz. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star as well. Always great to have these guys on. What a busy weekend this is going to be. Like I said, last night, men's basketball, men's soccer tonight, women's basketball at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall at Memorial Stadium this weekend. You've got Indiana taking on Michigan State. And then on Sunday, The Indiana Hoosiers basketball program takes on the reigning national champion Yukon Huskies Monday. The winner, we'll figure all that out. I will see you again on Sunday before the game. We're doing a pregame show, so make sure you're signed up, subscribed, tune in, and then the postgame show with Todd and Larry afterwards. So until Sunday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio. And thanks, John, the producer.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.